All right, welcome to the Ramble On. My name is Nick.
And my name is Brendan.
Let's go ahead and talk about Hellboy.
Yes, let's vivisect this dumpster fire of a film.
Now, before we get into it as well, do bear in mind that, as always, there will be spoilers for the Ramble On. Now, let's go ahead and do this in the same order that we did the Ramble On for this one, because I feel like there's not much to talk about with this movie aside from don't do what this movie did.
Yeah.
So let's start with the dialogue, as I mentioned before. The dialogue here was awful.
It was.
It was surface level at best. It was unbelievably cheesy. You had a lot of moments where you would just cringe a little bit, or a lot bits. And a lot of times dialogue was used solely as a way to convey what this character's feelings are, or to dump exposition.
Right.
That was about the only purpose of dialogue in this movie.
No, right.
And in particular, we'll talk about the narration in the very opening of the film, where they talk about King Arthur, because there are a few times there where I hated it because... So the opening of this movie tries to do this thing where it has a modern narrator who uses a lot of slang, who uses a lot of these attempts to kind of be a funny man by being unprofessional while he's talking about King Arthur. But it's kind of a hey you kids kind of way of doing it, where he'll just kind of throw in a random line, or he'll randomly say things like and the witch, that dag old bitch, tried to curse the whole land with a dang old poison, but King Arthur wasn't having none of that.
And that's a terrible first impression right off the bat, because it really hurts the value of the movie when you start off like that.
Now, the worst part is we have this full 5-minute opening where we establish this is the Enchantress. She tried to curse everybody. King Arthur slew her with Excalibur, or whatever it was. I think it's Excalibur.
And his posse rode off to different parts of England.
And then they cut her body up. But then about 20 minutes later, we get the exact same explanation between characters, so that the characters know what's going on. Now, my question is, why don't we just have a situation where the characters need that explained in the opening, and it's told them as an urban legend or something, so that they have an idea of what's happening. Don't need to say, wait a minute, you're that Enchantress who 20 years ago was chopped up and put in different boxes.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, why couldn't they just have done that rather than explain it twice? That seems so redundant and just unnecessary. It's just a waste of screen time, dialogue, and money.
Because... And this is my suspicion, is that this is a problem of a direct adaptation, where between issues you would need to remind the audience sometimes if there's an arc going on, if you went to a new arc, but they didn't cut that out for the movie.
Sure, I mean it would make sense if this were a comic series, if you were reading a comic, or if this were an episodic series. But no, this was a movie. It's a 2-hour film. You're not gonna have a brain fart of what happened the first 5 minutes of the film. How can you forget the first 5 minutes of the film?
Speaking of, let's go ahead and talk about the story for this film.
All over the place.
It was all over the place.
The pacing was terrible.
As I was doing in the theater, because I went to a theater on a Thursday, and it was dead silent. Nobody else in this movie, which great sign for opening week when you've already got dead theaters.
Yeah.
As I was in there, I was kind of texting back with Brendan, talking about all the things I hated about the movie as I was watching it. And one of the things I was talking about was this giant plot line that the movie opens with. So the movie opens with Hellboy getting assigned to go visit the Osiris people or whatever to help them with
it starts with the vampires.
Vampires? Oh yeah, it starts with him fighting a vamp. Oh my god, I forgot about that. Yeah. So the opening of this movie doesn't matter.
Yeah, that also doesn't matter.
He goes off, he fights his former ally
in
a
something. Luchador ring, yeah.
And then impales him, and he's really sad about it. But the way Hellboy looks is like a pug, kind of, where he's got a really flat face.
Oh, he looks deflated.
He looks he's half inflated at best. he's got a bald spot on the top of his head. His hair looks super greasy.
Ugh.
He looks kind of like a wimp.
He does.
He just looks terrible. This is easily the worst depiction of Hellboy to ever come out of a movie.
Looks like he's coming out of rehab. I mean...
Possibly, yeah.
No, and the vampire and the giant arc never touch it up again. They never go back to that.
And that's the first 20 minutes of the movie. And this whole giant arc is a set for him to get betrayed by these people who are obviously going to betray him. These people who are established as Oh, they're very rich. They're posh. They're upper class, and Hellboy is lower class. He's blunt. He's
A black sheep.
he's black sheep. He obviously doesn't fit in. And
Yeah.
your first thought is, wow, he really doesn't fit in here, does he? And he was just told that he was going to be killed when he was born, and that he's going to usher in the apocalypse, and that they want to kill him. Are they going to try to... Oh, they tried to kill him.
Yeah, I mean, that was heavily telegraphed. I don't know how that went over his head. I mean, Jesus. They... right off the bat, they tell you that he was meant to be killed.
Which, yeah, part of the exposition dump. Otherwise, though, the story is pretty basic. It's a ticking clock to stop this enchantress lady before she kills everyone.
Yeah.
And then they stop the enchantress lady.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cut and dry right there.
She has this assistant who's like this warthog guy, and he's kind of a badass in this movie. But then he's killed off by the villainess to show how powerful she is, I guess.
That was just... What a waste of a character. And even his backstory, his origin story was so stupid.
It was pretty stupid, yeah. But basically, Hellboy caught him impersonating a kid at a young age, and he was pissed forevermore.
Yeah, I mean, like, oh, Hellboy took my powers, or I lost my powers because of Hellboy, or
Except
Hellboy didn't take a limb from me or something. Except he was just pissed that Hellboy thwarted his plot to become a human child. Which, whack, but whatever.
I guess that. But you think that iron would be a problem at some point?
Yeah, that's a good point. If he reacted to the iron, the pig reacted to the iron.
You think that would be a real problem when, like, handrails come up?
Or,
cars,
handrails, dentist or surgical instruments, cars, like you said.
This seems like a really short-sighted plan.
Yeah, no, it was, no.
He's got tiny arms and a big head.
And what were they going to do with the original baby that they abducted?
I don't know if you thought this all the way through.
No. And so,
the story is also kind of a rogues gallery thing where they go around and pick up. This is the lady with the spirit powers. This is the cop who's a werecat. Stupid.
I know.
This is the dad, and like they kind of go around and gather up all these characters. And speaking of, let's get into effects. Talking about the werecat because it looks dumb as hell.
Oh yeah, it looks like it came out of an old Axe commercial.
But what I will say is that there are some effects in this movie where they get the lighting right, they get the effects right, they build an interesting looking demon. It looks genuinely decent in some shots.
Some.
There's this montage part where the Hellboy takes Excalibur and spoilers, I guess. Who cares? He kind of becomes like the demon lord or whatever that he was meant to be, and then all these demons start coming out of the ground and like tormenting people. This goes on for like 3 minutes of them just coming out of the ground and like killing people.
Yeah.
And it looks badass. Like we had these really great looking demons. We have these great depictions of the torture they're inflicting on people. This is perfect for Hellboy. That's the only good part of the movie, is that 2 minutes of demons really fucking up London.
See, now that was pretty cool, but some of the other effects are just...
Terrible.
They're terrible. They're, if not gratuitous.
And this is a movie which has problem leading too heavily on CGI. Like a lot of things in this movie where they rely too heavily on CGI and don't have a good costume base, so it looks plasticky and too fluid.
Right.
Like everything involving the werecat. The werecat is clearly CGI.
The werecat is the best example of that CGI catastrophe.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
Not even remotely. Some other examples, I'm sure.
There's also the plaything she sends out, which clearly is like this really cheesy 2D effect just overlaid on it.
That's
looks
right.
really bad.
Yeah, that was terrible.
They try to do like an artsy fartsy thing in the beginning, like kind of like Dark City, not Dark City, Sin City, where everything's in black and white except for the Enchantress, who has like this red robe. It looks okay, but it's overdone. And you roll your eyes and say, oh yeah, okay, the Sin City thing, yeah.
They did try to pay homages to all kinds of other franchises.
And this is a small nitpick for effects, but it was weird that like all the ugly monsters and horrible things in the shadows worship the human-looking lady.
I found that weird too. Why would they do that? I mean, aren't witches humans at the start and then graduate to full-on later, like the Baba Yaga?
Yeah, Baba Yaga. I mean, yeah, this is a movie where the only selling point was the effects the entire time, and they don't live up to what they were going to expect it to be, and that's disappointing. It's disappointing. I was going to expecting at least some kind of like really dumb plot, really dumb dialogue, but at least a cool looking main character, some interesting fights, some interesting demon designs, this really dark kind of Seth MacFarlane type of world where we get these really dark lights combined with these really dark looking demons. Instead, we get this line that's constantly too bright. So you can see the makeup and the effects on the practical costumes. These practical costumes on Hellboy especially that look just awful. They look like shit.
They do.
And then the CGI is done in these environments where it's not dark enough to hide that it's kind of cheap CGI. So it always looks bad.
It does. If I may, I kind of want to liken this film to Battle Angel Alita.
I think Alita was better.
I'm going to kind of agree with you on that, and here's why I kind of draw parallels there. I mean, they're movies with very hyped trailers. They showed potential.
I never saw a trailer for this movie, I'm going to be honest.
Well, I did. It was hype. It had hype. It had, something that could really draw you in, like the demons we saw in the 3 minutes that they emerged from the earth. But really, like Alita, this movie relied heavily on CGI, and it just looked awful. And the characters were so numerous that they were just background noise.
I think with Hellboy, it has a niche fan base that would be who they'd sell to, but that niche fan base, that niche fan base that wants a good Hellboy, then everybody else doesn't give a shit about Hellboy, because they remember it's like, oh, you mean that movie from the 90s that sucked?
Yeah.
And then, this one came out and it sucked, and people were going to say, oh, you mean that movie from 2019 that sucked? That's going to be a legacy of Hellboy in the public conscience.
It is. I mean, yeah.
I think that you would have to have a good arc from the niche story. You would have to have good dialogue, and you would have to focus on getting the theme right for the whole thing. That is the location, the effects. You would have to get that all right so that it stays in character for the movie. And they got none of that right.
No, not even remotely. If I may ask you, before we transition further into characters, why do you think it's so hard to make a decent movie for Hellboy? Where do they keep dropping the ball?
As far as the main problem the Hellboy series has faced over and over, I think part of it is that it just doesn't have much of a wide appeal. Because they're relying on people recognizing the name Hellboy, because this is a character who's kind of ugly, kind of demonic, and would not be a crowd pleaser even at those times. But part of it is that they don't know how to advertise this movie, I suspect, because you have to advertise it to the hardcore fans to get them to go, but the hardcore fans aren't going to tell people to go because most people don't give a shit about Spawn or Hellboy.
That's the truth. Yeah, God, Spawn, that's a name I haven't heard in a long ass time.
I think my take is just it's too hard to advertise, and it's a bit too niche of a series.
I'll give you that. Yeah, that's a good point. Niche series. In that case, so with that aside, let's go into characters, and because they're also.
There's Hellboy.
Yeah, there's Hellboy.
He's flat, and his main character motivation is he's dumb.
Yeah, very dumb. I mean,
but he punched good.
There were other charers. We don't remember their names.
No, there weren't. There weren't other characters.
Merlin was in it for 30 seconds.
Who gives a shit about Merlin?
I know. What was the point of that scene?
One effect I want to point out, too, that did work, just backtracking for a second, is anytime the spirit medium girl has to summon a demon, that actually does look about horrifying. The lighting becomes correct. And it actually looks pretty about right for the setting whenever she summons a demon.
Sure.
It's not a great effect, and it's kind of bad CGI, but it's at least a good enough effect for Hellboy, and it looks decent for the setting.
I'll agree that it's definitely bad CGI, but yeah, for the setting it was appropriate.
It's one of the few effects where I said, "Oh, that's pretty creepy. That's pretty cool."
For the first time she did it, I could see the purpose of it. The dead soothsayer, fortune teller lady. The dead dad, though.
I mean, that had the purpose of inspiring Hellboy.
But couldn't he have just as easily done that while living?
I mean, if we're going to talk about plot holes, then let's also talk about why didn't you just punch the ghost out of the witch?
Right? That's a good point. Yeah,
Like,
the medium has an ability of punching ghosts out of
she's
zombies.
got for one scene while she's like fighting a bunch of like stock zombies that just show up, really.
And you never see that again.
But yeah, she finds out that like, oh, if I punch them while I'm doing a spirit thingy, I can punch the ghost out of them and instantly kill them. That might be really useful. Because you think like, oh, that's really overpowered as fuck. She can punch the soul out of anybody.
Right, that's cool.
And it doesn't take much effort either on her part. She can just keep doing it over and over. But she never does it again. Like even during like the nerd ass shit at the end, where like look at the extended adventures of Hellboy and company as they fight guys in plastic suits.
Yeah.
She has knuckles on, so she doesn't punch the ghost out of them, and she has like a gun. Like the whole appeal of her was the ghost punching. Why didn't you stick with the ghost punching?
That was the only cool thing about her. Why would they do that?
There's a guy who's like a werecat.
Yeah.
That's about all there is to his character.
I know. Even his backstory's so goddamn stupid.
Yeah, I love that part where like he's trying to explain his tragic backstory of how he was in Vietnam one time hunting some demon, and then the demon killed all his buddies.
Yeah, and he's the only one that came out alive.
It's like, what? That's it? No offense, but like this organization has been fighting demons for a really long time. You're probably not terribly unique in that regard.
No, not even remotely. Like,
and the weird thing about that scene too is it's kind of a Predator homage, where like it's framed the same way as Predator. It has the same lighting. It takes place probably in a similar jungle.
Yeah,
it's got the same premise, and it even has a scene where he like just fires randomly into the woods. Ah!
No, the minute he was describing his whole backstory, I immediately thought to Arnold Schwarzenegger's 1980s The Predator film.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's a good film.
It is.
And everybody fucking references it.
My God. Now, I just want to quickly mention, what the fuck was that weird interaction between the medium and the were-jaguar dude? Like, was there some kind of weird... Were they trying to build a love interest?
Where else would I go?
Oh, my God. That was just cringy. Like, no. There's no time. You just fucking met...
I think it was meant to like lighten the tension of the scene where like everybody in the world's going to die.
It failed. It failed.
It made me cringe. It's something that lightens a scene.
It's just more fuel for the fire.
Yeah, no, this movie was bad. Themes. It's got a very generic,
Black sheep.
It's got a generic, you choose your family, you choose your destiny kind of thing.
Right.
And that seems like the wrong message for a movie like Hellboy, where it's all about like this really demented world where it's very grimdark and the bad ending can happen sometimes.
Right.
Like, it just kind of sets up to where, like, I don't give a shit about anything that just happened. But part of the issue with this movie, too, is a lot of the threats that come with the movie are kind of treated as throwaway, or in the case of, like, Hellboy versus 3 Giants, he just kind of beats them up.
Yeah, easily. I mean...
Like, he has no trouble with it.
And yet he struggled with the guys with the sticks.
And Baba Yaga.
And Baba Yaga for some reason.
And I guess he got cursed by her to, like, see something he loved die. That's not much of a curse.
He also got his ass handed to him at the start of the Luchador fight, which, what the fuck was up with
he
that?
also gets his ass kicked by a vampire.
Yeah. I mean, like, how is it that he can waste some people so easily, but others not so much?
Yeah, his power level as a character kind of fluctuates depending on whether or not he needs to lose a fight.
I mean, I know, I get, he does have his limitations, and, I mean...
Clearly not. He fought three giants at once and, like, wielded a sword that was, like, 100 times bigger than him.
Oh, God, that's a good point. The giants he fought easily, but the giant pigman...
They can't handle that one.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, what happened there?
Power levels are bullshit, Vegeta.
They are!
Yeah, there's not much else to talk about this movie. It failed on every level.
The Ron Perlman movies were better than this.
Oh, by a long shot. By a long shot. They at least had a heart to them.
Ron Perlman was a better Hellboy than this actor. I do...
No, the actor sucked too. The actor was every bit as bad as the makeup.
I like this particular actor because he has done well in other movies, but not this one.
He was so bad in this one.
So bad.
His delivery was incredibly flat. It was constantly coming out like he was just exhausted or tired of being there.
No, yeah, exactly. He definitely had an exhausted tone in him, and that's definitely not because of his character.
Every time I saw Hellboy on screen, I thought, that's not Hellboy, that's just an actor. Like, the makeup didn't work, the voice didn't work, the physique didn't work.
The dialogue didn't work.
None of it worked as far as the main character that this is about.
They souped him up so much, and it just did not, yeah.
Alright, well, I guess final summary of our thoughts on the movie. Let's start with you, since you are the much bigger Hellboy fan than I am.
Yeah, I own a few books. Hellboy. I just watched the 2004 Ron Perlman Hellboy. You're gonna get more enjoyment out of that than this one. Trust me. This one's just awful all around.
Yeah, and as someone that only knows Hellboy through the previous failed film releases, they somehow made it even worse for this one. It's bad in every sense. Even what you would go there to see, the effects and the cool setting, it's not there either. They managed to mess that up too, and that was the most basic, important thing they could get right. Skip this one. Don't even watch it for free. Just watch the older movie or read the comics, I guess, if you're into that.
Yeah.
Just don't watch this. It's terrible.
It is. It just is.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Tune in next time when we find another movie to watch.